Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and as you know, we'd like to do a segment called "Black, White, and Politically Incorrect" with my good friend Miss Susan Patton, aka the Princeton Mom. How you doing today, Susan?
I'm doing excellent. Lucille is with me today. This is my sweet dog, Lucille. Some
Oh,
people called her a racist dog. She's not a racist dog.
well,
She's gifted.
she's a brown dog, so she's a person of color or a puppy
Uh-huh.
of color. I will tell you that you and I get together. We talk about all these issues that we sometimes fight them out, but at the end of the day, we insist on loving each other when it's all
Yeah.
said and done, and that's something that's not going to change. So you're still mad. You're still mad because some of my viewers said you were racist, even I explained to you why you
That
supported
they
white
lie.
supremacy, and you have a hard time accepting that. Why is that?
Well, I do. Well, I do. Now, as I've said many times, I read all of our comments. And boy, did we have comments from last week. We had over 800 comments. I read every single one of them. And I have many. Don't make a face. We really do.
That's a lot of reading, but hey,
Our viewers are engaged. They think about what we're saying. They give thought to it. Some of them post vitriol. They just are so mad. They just hate me so. They're not crazy about you either, by the way, for being nice to me. Well, that's a ridiculous reason to not like somebody. That's a ridiculous reason to be critical of anybody. But I have many shout outs. Let me just go through a quick list of my shout outs for the week. Wayne Greer, T.R. Fearson, thank you very much. Jamal J., Robert Smothers III, Kirk Dog 007, love you, babe. Um, 058279941. Shalom to you. He's a black Jew in Israel. Mwah. Shalom to you. Relman 250, Agent 0004, Harry Bottom, Jay Harrison, Red Breeze, Rashid Black, Eddie Hendrickson, Austin 2000, Chef Tony, Byron Nash 45, Honestly Kia, 88 MB, SSM, Christopher White. Now, this is a courageous person, Christopher White. Love Christopher White. Lal J, Drizza 19, Dre Elliott, Esperanza S, Chuck P, Great Sweet Nice, Jason Skills, Break the Chains of Your Mind, J.D. Bennett 62. Yes, I read them all. Emily Malafa, Young Tucker. Love you back, man. Now, see, here's what's sort of interesting. And these are not all people who have written complimentary things about us, far from it, but they've written thoughtful things. So, for instance, you have Mr. Seaforce writes, Sue, you're not a real racist. You're more of a deluded bigot. Okay, well, he's given some thought to this, and maybe I've progressed and I'm not, really a racist. I'm a deluded bigot. All right, well, we can talk about this.
well,
Uh,
I'm just laughing after hearing you say Chef Dog 007. That's just funny. You don't hear an old, not let's say old, you're not old, but a white woman over the age of 20 saying stuff like that on a regular basis. So
all the
I
time.
think that's what just made me laugh. But keep
I
going.
do it. I do it all the time. Do it all the time. Danielle O'Neill, love Danielle O'Neill. She writes, "You can hide being Jewish. I can't hide being black." She's exactly right, and that's a very critical point to remember. That the struggles that I face, in a way, I bring it upon myself because I wear my Jewishness on my sleeve. You got no choice. I get that. I totally understand that. Because so much of the commentary is just screaming at me for being racist and white supremacist, and I keep struggling with understanding, why are you saying that to me? Do you not? I mean, if you've listened to enough of our conversations, it's pretty clear that I don't intend harm. You know that. You wouldn't have these conversations with me if you thought I did intend harm.
Well, I would probably still have the conversation with you, but at the same time, I don't think you intend harm, and I do think that I think that a lot of people who do things that perpetuate racism are not really intending to do harm. I really believe that. But some people think I'm naive for thinking that. But I think a lot of people try to be good people, and I think that they believe that they are. But I think that if you sort of uncritically live your life and just do what you were sort of trained to do, just as an American, as a righteous white American, unfortunately, you're going to be trained to do a lot of things that are inherently racist and
I
support a lot of ideas that are problematic.
understand that. I personally, I have never done anything the way anyone ever expected me to. Never. Not my parents, not my ex-husband, not my kids, nobody. It's like it's a constant horror show. No, not a horror show, but I've never done anything the way it was expected of me to do. So it's not I don't feel as though I have been so inculcated in the ways of racism that I am just doing the wrong thing left, right, and every which way. But I think something important here. One of our viewers, Philippe, writes, if you call yourself white, then you are a white supremacist. Okay, well, I don't even know what to say to that. So what that says to me is there's no hope. There's no hope that so many of our viewers stop laughing, boys. This is not funny. The future
No,
of this.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because that's one comment, right? Maybe there was more to it. Maybe he meant to say more, but I don't understand what he said there. But
I
you know,
think he said exactly what he means. And this is what I came to understand reading all of these comments, which I did. I honestly read all of them with the expectation that I'm going to learn something, and I did. And this is what I learned after reading all these comments, as I have, for so long. In the same way, I would say to a woman who has never given birth to a child, you don't understand what labor pains are. You don't understand it. You can't possibly, and I can't make you understand it. In the same way, someone who's never been hungry, I can't explain to you what hunger pains are. It's something that unless you have experienced hunger pains, you don't know what it is to have them. You don't know that kind of pain. You can't experience that. And I think what we're dealing with here is a recognition that because I am not a black person, I can't really understand the pain of being black. Although I completely believe that there is enormous pain associated with being black, and I read it in almost every comment that's posted to our website. And I don't think that our viewers think that I'm, the devil, even though some of them actually say that. They don't really think that. But I'm asking you, and I'm asking our viewers, what is it that you would have me do? What is it that you would have me do if I tell you that I'm sincerely interested in moving us as a society to a better place in terms of race relations? Tell me, what
well,
can I do?
Well, I think a good place to start. Well, first and foremost, I'm gonna stand by my belief that you don't mean any harm. I encourage people to understand the fact that a lot of white people wouldn't even come in and have this conversation. They'd be afraid. It's like the lion's den, you know. So for that, I think I'm hopeful people will at least appreciate your presence here. But um, what I would do if I were in your shoes and I was trying to understand another point of view, is I would take a slightly more agnostic approach when it comes to understanding the differences in races. And what I mean by that is that in many cases there are white people who use a very self-righteous, authoritative tone when it comes to black people. It's very much a finger wagging. Like, you people wouldn't have these problems if you didn't do this. You see what I mean? And for example, there was a cop who was really he was on TV scolding black parents and saying, we wouldn't shoot so many of your kids if you didn't do this and didn't do that, and you raised your kids better and did this. And don't get me wrong, we know that there's flawed parenting in every community. There's no question about it. Many of us who care complain extensively about some of the issues that we see, but to sort of start and finish your own conversation in that way without sort of doing a lot of listening in the middle. It certainly lends itself to white supremacy, because for the longest time many of us are accustomed to having white people tell us what's wrong with us. Almost pathologizing blackness and saying that you people don't have equal rights because you won't do this and you won't do that and you won't do that. But no one really sort of turns to the white community and says, you have problems in your society because you won't do this, you won't do this, and you won't do that. You
Now,
know,
stop a sec. I have to interject. I understand what you're saying. I am the first one to wag a finger and tell you you stop doing it, but not just because you're black. I would say it to anyone who is screwing up, any stupid kid who was acting the fool or doing poorly in school, because that's who I am. I am the Princeton mom. I am maternal by nature. I am someone who feels compelled to tell you what you need to hear for your own best interest. It's not, I'm not telling you stop screwing up because you're black. I'm telling you stop screwing up because screwing up is bad.
Well, well, actually, before I get to that, I want to ask you: is that a stereotype, or do Jewish moms kind of have that reputation of being bossy?
We
Because
earn that
my
right.
best friend, as a kid, I told you about him. His
Yeah,
family was Jewish, and his mother used to say sound just like you. My nickname was Coco. She'd say, "Coco, what you need to do is this,"
yeah.
and it was always in love. I loved her to death, and she was a
All,
second mom for me. And
all,
so,
it's
anyway,
intrinsic to who we are. It is intrinsic to the Jewish people that we take our role as mother so seriously and we are so invested in the success, the health, the happiness of our children. Oh my God. One of these days you'll meet my young son and watch how he rolls his eyes. If you were to say to him, gee, is your mom a little overbearing sometimes? Oh,
well,
I,
well,
all I want is good for my children. So, yes, I will get in their face time and time again. No differently than that I would get in the face of any black kid or any black parent who is doing a lousy job raising their kids saying, hey, step up. Don't let your kid do that. Don't let your kid do that.
right,
In fact, if anything, the racist thing for me to do would be, oh, I don't know, God forbid I offend a black person and not tell her kid is,
right, and I agree with that, and I certainly hear what you're saying there. And that little question was just a side question.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
curious, but
Yes, it
but
is
but
intrinsic
but
to
here,
who we are.
here's where white supremacy can come into play. You see, white supremacy to me is more built on just the structure of power. It's not always sort of based on attitude. We talked about that a little bit before,
Right?
so I can dig into it a little bit more. It's like, let's say that you had, so let's say you have two kids in the house, and one of them was just born with all the power in the house. He was just he controls the refrigerator, he controls everything that happens in the house, and the other kid's just there, right? And it's all based on what your parents gave you, right? Well, and let's say that the kid who has the power believes it's important to pray every morning before you go out to school, and the other kid says, well, I don't want to pray. That's not what my parents taught me. And so the first kid, the powerful kid, can say, well, since you don't pray, you're a bad person. And the kid being oppressed can complain back and say, well, that's not fair. You're doing this to me, or you're doing this to me because of who I am or where I come from. And the first kid can say, legitimately, he can say, no, I'm not doing this because of where you come from. I'm doing this because it's wrong. It's wrong not to pray in the morning before you go to school. And so my point on that is that when you have power, that means that your view of the world, your value system, reigns supreme in that environment. And so what lots of black people are confronted with consistently, in my opinion, not that I'm the black people's ambassador here, but from what I have felt in my own life is that if I'm in an environment that's controlled by whites, that's historically white, I'm the first black person to ever have this job or be at this school or whatever. I'm inundated with all these sometimes very judgmental value systems that are imposed upon me that I do not understand.
I don't
And
understand that. I don't understand that. Give me an example.
well, the example with the two kids in the prayer. So in the workplace, it might just be something as simple as, I've had issues with simply the kind of music I might listen to. If I came to work and I listened to, hip hop music or something, I would be looked at in a certain way. Or if I communicate in a certain way, people may not understand that.
Okay, stop there.
If I no no if Trayvon Martin gets shot and I say that's horrible, then I might be viewed in a certain way. So just the fact that you're not correlated, your worldview is not correlated with the worldview of whites. You can, in many cases, end up being ostracized, not because those whites are trying to be racist, but because they have all the power and their view of the world dominates that environment.
Okay, two things. One, I'm not sure I understand your example of the two kids in the house. Are these both two children born of the same parents living in the same home?
They live in the same home, but it's hypothetical, but it's like they both have an inheritance. They both have their own parents, and they live in the same house. Just like the house kind of represents the country. So you have the white kid and the black kid. They're in
Oh,
the same
okay. Well,
house, and
different.
the white kid has all the wealth and all the power because his parents left him the wealth and the power in the house. The black kid doesn't have much. Maybe because, if you want to use the analogy perfectly, because the white kid's parents stole wealth from the black kid's parents. so so seriously, that's the wealth disparity in America is heavily driven by the amount of wealth that was stolen from black people. Even Dr. King, before he died, gave a speech where he talked about massive millions of acres of land that was given to whites in the early part of the 20th century, land grant colleges that were established to teach them to farm the land, low interest loans that were given to them to mechanize their farming, subsidies that were paid for them to not farm. And he said black people were left out of all of this. And so we left slavery with nothing. And then even beyond that, during Jim Crow, we weren't allowed to accumulate anything. I mean, there are countless stories of people in the South who had land where they said we want your land, so the cops would just go arrest the person for no reason so they could take their land, or they would run the family out of town in the middle of the night and keep their land. And because these crimes have not been addressed, this inequality has persisted a lot. So the lack of acknowledgement, the idea of sort of saying, well, the past is the past, let's just move on, why are you holding on to the past, that really, that can piss people off. That makes me angry. I
Uh,
don't tolerate that stuff.
It does. No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. You know that in my heart, I do feel as though the secret to moving forward positively, productively, and successfully is saying the past is the past. But I understand why that would be upsetting to you or anybody who feels that they were robbed of something that has never been restored to them, or they are owed something that has never been paid to them. I understand. But we have talked about the issue of reparations before. We could talk about it again anytime. But let me just say this, I'm pretty sure you're not getting reparations. So you could be screaming all you want, you're not getting it.
Well,
So that's not even
well,
a
it's not about screaming. It's like, okay, I think we both agree getting reparations in the near future is going to be hard to do.
right.
But don't say we're not going to acknowledge reparations, but yet we want to sit there with you at the Martin Luther King breakfast and hold hands and saying we shall overcome.
Well,
I'm not holding your hand. I'm not gonna smile and pretend
I
like nothing
understand.
happened.
I
You see,
understand.
so
But go
that's
ahead.
the condition for moving forward peacefully, is acknowledging the wrong that has been done. If that not acknowledgement doesn't exist, then you'll always have racial division. You'll always have turmoil.
I,
Black people will build on their own, but they're not going to forgive and forget.
I completely understand. You've heard me say it on this program before. I'll say it again. If I were a black person, I wouldn't be living in this country. The cards are stacked against you. I totally get that. I completely get that. But what I ask you, and I ask, not, I'm not being coy. I ask in all sincerity, what is it that I can do or that we can do? Look, you're not getting reparations because I say so. That's never going to happen. So let us take that off the table. You're saying that because of your circumstances or where you come from, if that in the workplace you might be treated differently if you listen to hip hop or what. Well, the truth is, if you go to work for a company that has a certain set of standards, call them white standards if you want, and maybe that's what it is, and you show up at the job, wearing pants that are falling down, down to your knees. Well, yeah, you're going to be ostracized, not because you're black, but because you've made a fashion choice that doesn't fit in with this corporate culture.
Well,
And it would be the same for anybody else. I don't think
right. Well,
because you're
but
black.
no one's gonna defend going to work with your pants sagging. That's not gonna happen. I agree with that. But what I will say though is that I know plenty of black people who have advanced degrees from Ivy League institutions who still feel the same racial exclusion, and a lot of that is driven by the culture of the environment. Um, and it's fine. I mean, it is what it is. It's life. But I would say, if you ask me what you could do as a white person to
Right.
kind of help with this, um, don't have try not to have as many conversations in such a way where you feel like you know the answer before it starts. I mean, really try to get that other perspective and try to understand it. And a lot of people can't do this. A lot, especially in this political environment, people are used to fighting each other, being on extremes, and pretending that they know the whole truth. But I find that you gain a lot of insight into life when you're able to hear and see the world through the eyes of other people. I try to listen to Donald Trump supporters, and I try to understand why they like Donald Trump. I don't like Donald Trump, But when I hear a Trump supporter talk, I want them to talk, and I want to listen so I can
Right.
try to at least understand their point of view, because I feel more fulfilled as a human being, as opposed to the confusion you have when you
Exactly.
say, I don't know why any idiot would ever vote for this guy. If you
Awful.
vote for him, you must be crazy. You must be this. You must be that. Those things, some of those things could be true, but the thing is that
Doesn't advance a
it,
conversation.
it's a cop
Advance-
out. It's a cop out to me to
That's right.
assume that anybody who doesn't see your truth must be crazy, must be wrong.
That's exactly right. It's a very good point. In fact, I was watching The View this morning. Whoopi Goldberg, how much I love Whoopi. And even though she's a very Afrocentric kind of gal, I mean, she is totally all about being black.
Isn't she Jewish? Didn't she convert?
No, no,
I thought
no.
she converted.
I
Can't
don't
you?
know. You think that? I don't know that.
Yeah,
I
she
don't know.
converted. I think she's Jewish. I mean, but can you? Can I just like if I did want to be a Jew, I could. Like that's
Yeah,
is
you
it
could.
hard to do?
Well,
I'm not going
yeah,
to. I mean, God bless the Jewish community, but I'm happy being who I am. But
you could. But I mean, to actually convert to Judaism, it's not like such an easy thing to do. You have to take courses. You have to be sort of certified by what's called a bet din, which is a like mm, a panel of rabbis who have to be convinced that you are genuinely interested in adopting the Jewish faith and the Jewish principles. Didn't you watch Orange is the New Black last season?
I did. I remember when Juicy, the big girl, decided
Yes.
she wanted to be Jewish, and at first she was pretending. Then later on, she made the decision,
Totally
and
got the program.
so
She got
that's the story of the black of the Negro since we got to America. Many of us have never known who we are, so we're always trying to be somebody else, and that becomes part of the root of some of our own problems as a
we
communities.
all
We lost. Remember when we were brought over here in slavery, we were kind of stripped of everything. So we're still
I
learning who we are. That's my theory. But go
I
ahead.
believe that's true, but I think we are all constantly evaluating and reevaluating who we are, who we want to be, how we want the world to see us. I think that's all a good thing. That's not woe is me. I'm a black person and I have no identity. You've got plenty of identity. The black people I know, including yourself, have such strong identity. My gosh, you seem so knowledgeable about who you are, what you believe, who you how you want the world to see you. I love that. That's one of the things I love about you boys. That and your hairdo are the things that I love
Well,
most.
my hair is always going to be beautiful. We know that. We know that.